I was born on Father's Day in 1934 at 6 o'clock in the morning on my mother's dining room table because there was no hospital in Seaside at that time. We lived in a house down on the corner from the grandparents lived up the street, and we had rented a house on the corner. So that's where I grew up, and until I was about 2, I suppose. And then Aunt Betty, my sister, Aunt Betty was born, and my grandparents decided that we all needed to live together in one big house. They made a upper story, which was a complete house with, kitchen, bedrooms, everything, and that's where they lived. And our family lived on the downstairs floor. They ran the Washer's grocery store, which was a private grocery store. That was before the big stores came in, like Safeway and everything. And my grandfather, on my mother's side of the family, built the big school that we all went to. He was a big contractor. It was called the Seaside Central School.
So your grandma was kind of a lady of leisure.
She was a fine lady. I think she was always raised as a fine lady, because looking back at the old pictures, she's dressed in these fabulous clothes, and she just looked like a favored daughter, kind of. And my grandfather, I think, his name was A.R. Wascher. I think he was from a well-to-do family too, more or less.
What was his name?
Alfred R. Wascher. They had everything they needed, and they had plenty of money to spend.
So you didn't have that Depression era kind of thing at all?
We didn't have any Depression, because they had a store. That was one thing. Things that were rationed. Mm-hmm. We could have those things. We were always being fed.
Mm-hmm. And then what about
and we were always chubby, My sister and I were chubby. My mother was so excited one time because she went to Portland and she found a line of girls' dresses, and they were called chubettes.
And did you and Aunt Betty fight, or did you always get along?
We got along pretty good. We got along very well when we were younger. When we got older and I started doing older girl things and thought I was so smart. Mm-hmm. And smart, I was kind of smart alecky like. Then Betty didn't like that. I used to like to scare her. Because she was scared, she's 2.5 years younger. And I would scare her in bed and things like that. I was kind of a bad kid.
Did you go to the beach a lot?
My sister and I went to the beach, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times we would take a lunch. We'd take a lunch, walk up 12th Avenue, because we lived on 12th Avenue, which was a straight shot up to the beach. In the summertime, we would have family picnics that were a whole lot of fun. We'd be in bed asleep on like a Saturday or Sunday morning. Grammy would come down the halls and say, get up girls, we're going to go on a picnic. Everybody bring their own food to share, if they wanted to. They did a lot of sharing of food, I think. So we'd get there, and we were so happy, and we liked to wade in the creek there and find little crawfish, I guess it was, we were looking for. Something we looked for, and it was fun. And then the adults would have a baseball game.
Oh,
because we were kind of small for that. And it was always fun seeing the mothers running and stuff, And
but Grammy was athletic.
Yeah,
More probably than most women.
And I think I just can't remember exactly who did well and what. But I know my mother was probably very good at running the bases and so forth. And anyway, we all had a really good time. And then on the way back, we'd get in the car, and Grammy, we'd all pile in, and just our families. Everybody came in their own car. And Grammy they'd start old songs that we all knew. And we'd all just sing all the way home. Wow, and then once in a while, somebody, probably like me, had to go to the bathroom, so they would just pull to the side of the road and get out and go in the bushes.
I can't imagine you doing that.
Well, that was what we had to do then. And in fact, my father had a movie camera,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes he would take pictures, of somebody going in and then coming back out again. As we grew up, of course, then we got more involved in school activities in high school. Started going out on dates, going to dances. I was a good student. I was in honor society, and I got always got my work done. Poppy and I met our junior year in high school. We knew each other just because it's such a small school, you knew who everyone was. But we never really talked or done anything together. But my good friend Sandra and her boyfriend Jerry decided that Dad and I should have a date, that we would like each other. So they arranged that, and Dad and I both agreed. And so they picked us up. We were sitting in the back seat, and we went to the drive-in. And so we got as far as not quite into Gerhardt. When they stopped the car, I said, okay, you guys can get out now and get in the trunk. And because they just drove in without paying for us that way.
Oh.
We got in the trunk, they closed us up in there, and we drove to the drive-in and went through the, paying for it and the whole thing. And then they found a place to park and let us out of the trunk. Sandra and Jerry had been going together for a long time, so they started smooching.
Mm-hmm.
And Dad and I are just sitting there in the back seat like, okay. And so we didn't really know what to say to each other. We talked about what was in my purse. He asked me to go to one of the big dances, and so, then get dressed up in formal, and he gave me a corsage, and we got friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it started. And then
Do you remember
we started,
the first time he kissed you?
Yeah, at the
Yeah.
Cove at the seaside.
Oh.
That was a good place, always the Cove. And then we got engaged when we graduated from high school. And we went to Oregon State, where we sort of, and Dad didn't like it too much there, I didn't like it too much there, so we both quit. And I got a job at the bank in Seaside, the first Seaside Bank it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And Dad went back east. He went to Vanderbilt, where his college, where his friend, I forgot his name now, but he was living there. And then another friend of Poppy's, named Mike, met Poppy there, and they had both saved their money, and they took off, and that's when they hitchhiked around the United States. One of my good friends' grandmother was a good friend of Larry's mother, so we made an arrangement that I was going to give her back my engagement ring, because forget this whole business, it was not really working out too well. For us to be engaged was kind of silly. Dad came back from his trip, and he just thought we were going to go right back together again. No, we're not. We then parted ways, and I went to Maryland's College for a year. And Dad came down to the University of Oregon for almost a year. And then I went to a dance there at Oregon, and we just started getting back together.
Mm.
That's how that all happened. And then we decided, well, we'd get married. So we did.
Mm-hmm. And that was it again.
And that was it. Then we didn't have any more fights or anything.
Is that
I think.
running out of time?
I'm running out of batteries.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Things happen when you're
Yeah.
young and
Just-
innocent.
there
Here
it is.
comes
How about that?
Dad. Hey, that worked out perfect,
Oh, it
Larry.
was like 5 seconds ago. We said, okay, we're done now, out of batteries.
Out of batteries?
That was great.